Princess Zara stood before the massive mirror in her royal chambers, watching her reflection shake with fear. Her crystalline blue skin, normally a source of pride among her people, flickered with nervous patterns of light. The Velian Empire had chosen her to represent them at the most important diplomatic meeting in their history, but she felt completely unprepared. "Your Highness," came a gentle voice from behind her. Counselor Mira entered the room, carrying a data tablet filled with briefing materials. "The human delegation will arrive in 2 hours. We should review the final preparations." Zara turned away from the mirror, her large violet eyes wide with worry. "Tell me again about this human warrior they are sending. I need to understand what we are dealing with." Mira activated the tablet, and holographic images filled the air between them. Battle scenes played out in miniature, showing human soldiers in various conflicts across the galaxy. "His name is Ben Torres. He has served in the Human Defense Corps for 15 years. The reports say he has participated in over 200 combat operations." 200, Zara whispered, her voice barely audible. Among her peaceful people, even a single battle was considered a traumatic event that might affect someone for years. The idea of someone who had seen so much fighting was almost impossible for her to understand. "The humans are different from us, Princess," Mira continued, her tone growing more serious. "Their species developed through constant conflict. They evolved on a world where survival meant fighting every day. Other species fear them because they never surrender, even when facing impossible odds." Zara sat down heavily on her meditation cushion, a traditional seat made from soft crystalline fibers. "What if I cannot hide my fear? What if he sees how terrified I am? Our people need this alliance, but I do not know if I am strong enough to face such a being." The counselor moved closer, her expression kind but worried. "Princess, you have trained for this your entire life. Your diplomatic skills are among the finest in the Empire. Remember why we need this treaty with the humans." Zara nodded slowly. The Corvic raiders had been attacking outer colonies for months. Her people had incredible technology for healing and growing things, but they had no weapons of war. The Velians had lived in peace for over 1,000 years. When the attacks began, they realized they needed allies who understood fighting. "The humans have defeated the Corvic raiders in every encounter," Mira said, showing more holographic battles. "Small human forces have driven off entire Corvic fleets. Their tactical abilities are beyond anything we have seen before." "But at what cost?" Zara asked, standing up and beginning to pace around the room. "What does constant fighting do to a being? What kind of person becomes skilled at destroying others?" These questions had kept her awake for many nights. The stories about human warriors seemed like myths from a darker age. They spoke of humans who could fight for days without rest, who would charge into certain death to save their comrades, who seemed to feel no fear even when facing monsters from the deepest parts of space. "Princess," Mira said gently, "perhaps you should focus on the diplomatic aspects of this meeting. The human leadership has agreed to help us specifically because they know we are a peaceful people. They want to protect us, not harm us." Zara stopped pacing and looked out the large window of her chamber. The capital city of Valia stretched out below her, its towers of living crystal reaching toward the sky like frozen waterfalls. Gardens floated between the buildings, filled with the gentle creatures her people had domesticated over the centuries. Everything was soft and beautiful and safe. The idea of war seemed completely foreign in such a place. "What if the warrior thinks we are weak?" she asked. "What if he sees our peaceful ways as signs that we are not worth protecting?" "The humans do not think that way," Mira replied, consulting her notes. "According to our research, they often fight specifically to protect those who cannot protect themselves. They seem to believe it is their duty to shield the innocent from harm." A soft chime echoed through the chamber, indicating that the human ship had entered the system. Zara felt her heart begin to beat faster. In just a short time, she would be face to face with one of the most feared types of beings in the galaxy. "Tell me more about their fighting methods," she said, trying to prepare herself mentally. If I understand how they think about combat, perhaps I will be less afraid. Mira pulled up tactical analyses from various battles. They use something called combined arms tactics. Instead of relying on superior technology or individual strength, they coordinate different types of units to support each other. They are also masters of adaptation, changing their strategies based on what they learn about their enemies. The holographic displays showed human soldiers moving with precise coordination through alien battlefields. Unlike other species who relied on powerful energy weapons or natural abilities, the humans seemed to win through planning and teamwork. But here is the most interesting part, Mira continued. They often win battles they should lose according to military theory. When faced with superior numbers or technology, they find ways to turn their weaknesses into advantages. Zara watched one particular battle replay where a small human unit had held off a much larger force by using the terrain cleverly and refusing to retreat even when their position seemed hopeless. They never give up, she said with a mixture of admiration and terror. Never, Mira confirmed. That is what makes them so effective against raiders and pirates. Criminal groups rely on their victims being too afraid to fight back. Humans fight back against anyone who threatens innocent people, no matter how dangerous the enemy might be. Another chime sounded, this one indicating that the human ship was approaching the docking bay. Zara walked to her wardrobe and selected her most formal diplomatic robes, made from fabric that shifted between different shades of blue like ocean waves. Princess, Mira said as she helped Zara adjust the ceremonial crown that marked her royal status. Remember that this human warrior chose to come here to help us. He could be fighting in any number of conflicts across the galaxy, but instead he is here to discuss protecting our people. Zara nodded, trying to draw strength from this thought. You are right. If he were truly as frightening as the stories suggest, he would not waste time with diplomacy. They made their way through the crystal corridors of the royal palace toward the main conference chamber. Other members of the Velian diplomatic team joined them along the way, all of them showing various signs of nervousness. None of them had ever met a human before. The conference chamber was one of the most beautiful rooms in the palace, with walls of transparent crystal that offered views of the floating gardens outside. A large table made from a single piece of carved stone sat in the center, surrounded by chairs designed to accommodate various alien body types. The human delegation has docked, announced Captain Wren, the head of palace security. They are requesting permission to beam directly to the conference chamber. Granted, Zara said, though her voice shook slightly. She took her place at the head of the table, trying to project an image of calm confidence despite the fear churning in her stomach. A column of light appeared near the entrance to the chamber, and 3 figures materialized within it. 2 were clearly human females in formal diplomatic attire, but the third was the warrior Ben Torres. Zara's breath caught in her throat as she got her first look at a human soldier. He was taller than she had expected, with broad shoulders and arms that looked strong enough to tear apart metal. His dark hair was cut short in a military style, and his brown eyes seemed to take in everything around him with the intensity of a predator scanning for threats. Yet something about his presence was different from what she had imagined. Instead of radiating aggression or menace, he moved with controlled grace. When he looked at her, she saw not coldness or calculation, but what appeared to be concern. Your Highness, said one of the female diplomats, stepping forward with a formal bow. I am Ambassador Chen, representing the Human Alliance. This is my aide, Dr. Williams, and our military advisor, Commander Torres. Zara managed to stand and return the bow, though she had to grip the edge of the table to keep her hands from shaking. Welcome to Velia, she said, proud that her voice came out clearer than she felt. We are honored by your presence. Ben stepped forward and offered what humans called a salute, placing his right hand over his heart and bowing his head slightly. It is an honor to meet you, Princess. I have read about your people's achievements in art and science. Your reputation for wisdom and kindness extends throughout this sector of the galaxy. The way he spoke was nothing like what Zara had expected. His voice was calm and respectful, with none of the harsh tones she associated with warriors. When he looked at her, she felt like he was really seeing her as a person, not just evaluating her as a potential ally or threat. "Please, be seated," she managed to say, gesturing toward the chairs that had been prepared for the human delegation. As they took their places, she noticed that Ben chose a seat that put him closest to the chamber's exits, and his eyes continued to scan the room periodically. Even in a peaceful diplomatic setting, his warrior instincts remained alert. Ambassador Chen opened a briefcase and pulled out various documents and data tablets. "Princess Zara, we have reviewed the reports about the Korvac raids on your outer colonies. The Human Alliance is prepared to offer military assistance, but we want to make sure we understand your needs and limitations." Dr. Williams activated a holographic display showing maps of the local star systems. Red markers indicated the locations of recent attacks, forming a pattern that gradually moved closer to the Corvelian worlds. "The raiders are testing your defenses," Ben said, his tone becoming more professional as he analyzed the tactical situation. "They start with isolated targets to see how quickly you can respond, then gradually move toward more valuable objectives. Based on this pattern, I estimate you have perhaps 2 months before they attempt a major assault on one of your primary colonies." Zara felt her fear spike again as she realized how serious the threat had become. "Our people have no experience with military matters," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We have defensive shields and evacuation procedures, but no weapons capable of fighting armed ships." "That is exactly why we want to help you," Ben replied, and something in his tone made her look up at him. "The Korvac raiders prey on peaceful species specifically because they think you will not fight back. They use terror and brutality to force compliance. But what can we offer in return?" Zara asked. "Humans are known as mighty warriors. What could our small empire possibly give you that would be worth risking your lives?" Ben was quiet for a moment, as if considering his words carefully. "Princess, do you know why humans fight?" The question caught her off guard. "I assumed it was because your species evolved through conflict. Because fighting is your nature." Ben shook his head slowly. "Fighting is not our nature, Princess. Protecting others is our nature. We fight because there are people in the universe who hurt the innocent, and someone needs to stand against them." He gestured toward the holographic display showing the raider attacks. "The Korvac raiders have destroyed entire colonies, enslaved thousands of beings, and spread terror across dozens of star systems. They do this not for resources or territory, but because they enjoy causing suffering." Zara felt something shift in her understanding as she listened to him speak. The emotion in his voice was not the cold hatred she had expected from a warrior, but something much more complex. "Your people represent everything we fight to protect," Ben continued. "You have created a civilization based on beauty, wisdom, and compassion. You have lived in peace for 1,000 years. The idea that raiders might destroy that is unacceptable to us." Ambassador Chen nodded in agreement. "The Human Alliance has a saying, 'The strong protect the weak,' not because they are weak, but because protection is what makes strength meaningful." Zara looked around the table at her own advisors, seeing her own amazement reflected in their expressions. This was not the conversation any of them had expected to have with human warriors. "But surely you must want something in return," Counselor Mira said, speaking up for the first time. "Trade agreements, resource rights, territorial concessions." Dr. Williams smiled gently. "Actually, we were hoping you might share some of your medical technology with us. Human soldiers get injured, and your healing techniques could save many lives. We would also be honored if you would allow some of our people to study your art and philosophy." Ben leaned forward slightly, his intense gaze fixed on Zara. "Princess, I need you to understand something. If we take on this mission, it means human soldiers will put their lives on the line to protect your people. We do not take that responsibility lightly." "I understand," Zara said, though her voice still trembled. "I do not think you do," Ben replied, but his tone was not harsh. "When humans make a promise to protect someone, we keep that promise no matter what the cost. Even if it means fighting impossible odds. Even if it means some of us do not come home." The weight of his words settled over the chamber like a heavy blanket. Zara suddenly realized that her fear had been focused on the wrong thing entirely. She had been afraid that this human warrior might be dangerous to her people, but the real truth was far more overwhelming. He was prepared to die for them. The diplomatic meeting continued for several more hours as both sides worked out the details of their alliance. Zara found herself watching Ben carefully, trying to understand this confusing human who spoke of war with such sadness rather than excitement. Every time he described military tactics or defensive strategies, she could hear something in his voice that sounded almost like regret. The key to defeating raiders is making the cost too high for them, Ben explained, pointing to various positions on the star map. They rely on quick strikes against targets that cannot fight back. When they encounter serious resistance, they usually retreat to find easier prey. Ambassador Chen nodded in agreement. We propose establishing 3 patrol routes through your outer systems. Small human task forces can respond quickly to any raider activity, while your people focus on evacuation and rescue operations. Dr. Williams added more details about medical cooperation and cultural exchange programs. The humans seemed genuinely excited about learning from Velian art and philosophy, which surprised Zara. She had always thought warriors would have no interest in such peaceful pursuits. Princess, Ben said during a brief break in the discussions, may I ask you something personal? Zara felt her nervousness return, but she nodded. Of course, Commander. You seem very afraid of me, he said gently. I want to understand why, so I can avoid making you uncomfortable. The directness of his question caught her off guard. Most diplomats would never address such things so openly. I apologize if my behavior has been inappropriate, she began, but Ben raised his hand to stop her. You have done nothing wrong, he said. Fear is a natural response when meeting someone unfamiliar. But I sense there is something more specific troubling you. Zara looked around the conference room, noting that her advisors and the other humans were engaged in their own conversations. She lowered her voice and decided to be honest. Commander, your people are known throughout the galaxy as the greatest warriors ever seen. The stories say that humans never retreat, never surrender, never show mercy to their enemies. Ben was quiet for a long moment, his brown eyes thoughtful. Those stories are both true and false, Princess. I do not understand. It is true that humans rarely retreat when we are protecting innocent people, he said. It is true that we do not surrender when surrender would mean allowing evil to triumph. But the part about mercy is completely wrong. He gestured toward the star map still glowing between them. Every battle I have fought, Princess, I have offered my enemies the chance to surrender. Even the worst criminals and raiders. We do not enjoy destroying life, even when that life belongs to those who would harm others. Zara felt something inside her chest begin to relax. Then why do other species fear you so much? Because we are willing to do what is necessary to protect the innocent, Ben replied. Sometimes that means fighting when others would give up. Sometimes it means standing firm when others would compromise with evil. We have learned that peace is only possible when good people are willing to fight for it. Before Zara could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the palace. Red warning lights flashed as an automated voice announced an emergency in multiple languages. Captain Wren burst into the conference room, his face pale with panic. Princess. Korvik raiders have entered the system. 12 ships, approaching fast. They will be here in 20 minutes. Zara felt the blood drain from her face. The raiders had never attacked the capital world before. This was supposed to be the safest place in the entire empire. Ben was on his feet instantly, his entire demeanor changing from diplomatic to military in the space of a heartbeat. Captain, what are your defensive capabilities? We have shields around the major cities, Captain Wren replied. Some evacuation ships. But no weapons capable of fighting armed raiders. Ambassador Chen, Ben said, turning to his diplomatic colleague, contact our ship immediately. Tell them to begin attack patterns and call for reinforcements. Commander, Ambassador Chen said, our ship is just a diplomatic vessel. We have minimal weapons. Ben's jaw tightened, but his voice remained calm. Then we hold them off as long as possible and protect as many civilians as we can. Dr. Williams was already working on her data tablet. I am sending our ship's tactical data to your Defense Command Center, she told Captain Wren. It might help with evacuation coordination. Zara stood frozen in the middle of the chaos, watching Ben transform before her eyes. The gentle, thoughtful person she had been speaking with was still there, but now she could see the warrior that other species feared. His movements became precise and economical, his voice carried absolute authority, and his eyes held a determination that seemed unbreakable. Princess, he said, turning to her, I need you to authorize the evacuation of all civilian areas. Get your people to the safest shelters possible. But what about the alliance, she asked, her voice shaking. What about the treaty? Ben stepped closer to her, and instead of feeling afraid, Zara suddenly felt safer than she had all day. Princess, the treaty can wait. Right now, the only thing that matters is keeping your people alive. Another alarm sounded, this one indicating that the raiders had entered orbit around the planet. Through the crystal walls of the conference room, they could see explosions beginning to light up the sky as the palace shields came under attack. We need to get to the command center, Captain Wren said. Princess, the council is waiting for your orders. Zara nodded, but as they moved toward the door, she stumbled and nearly fell. The stress and fear were overwhelming her ability to think clearly. Ben caught her arm gently, steadying her. Princess, he said, his voice calm despite the chaos around them, I need you to trust me. Can you do that? She looked up into his eyes and saw something that made her decision easy. Despite all the alarms and explosions and danger, Ben looked completely confident. Not arrogant or reckless, but absolutely certain that they would find a way through this crisis. Yes, she said, and meant it. Good. Then let me worry about the fighting. You focus on taking care of your people. They made their way quickly through the palace corridors toward the central command center. Other Velian officials were running in various directions, some carrying important documents, others helping to coordinate civilian evacuations. The crystal walls of the palace showed scenes of chaos outside as people fled toward the protected shelters. The command center was a large room filled with communication equipment and tactical displays. Dozens of Velian technicians were working frantically to coordinate the planetary defense. Large screens showed the positions of the raider ships as they moved through orbit, occasionally firing on ground targets. Status report, Zara called out as they entered the room. 12 Corvic ships in orbit, reported Commander Vale, the head of planetary defense. They are targeting government buildings and major population centers. Our shields are holding for now, but they will not last long under this kind of assault. Ben moved to one of the tactical displays and began studying the attack patterns. These are not random strikes, he said after a few moments. They are trying to force you to surrender by demonstrating that they can destroy anything they choose. What do you recommend? Commander Vale asked. How many evacuation ships do you have? Ben replied. 50 transport vessels, each capable of carrying about 500 people. Ben did quick calculations in his head. That is 25,000 people per evacuation run. How many civilians are in immediate danger? Nearly 200,000 in the capital city alone. Zara felt her heart sink. Even if everything went perfectly, it would take many hours to evacuate everyone, and the shields would not hold that long. Ben studied the displays for several more minutes, then turned to Commander Vale. I have an idea, but it will be dangerous. Tell me. The raiders are focusing their attack on the palace and government district because they want to capture or eliminate the leadership, Ben said. If we can make them think they have succeeded, they might stop the bombardment long enough for evacuation to be completed. What are you suggesting? Zara asked. Ben looked directly at her. We fake your death, Princess. Make it appear that their attack has killed the royal family and destroyed the government. Raiders typically want to loot conquered territory, not turn it into radioactive ash. If they think they have won, they will stop shooting and send down landing parties. Commander Vale frowned. And then what? We will still be outnumbered and outgunned. Then I will deal with the landing parties, Ben said simply. The entire command center fell silent. Zara stared at him in disbelief. Commander, there are 12 ships. Even if they only send small landing forces, that could be hundreds of raiders. Ben smiled, and for the first time since meeting him, Zara saw something that might have been frightening if she had not already learned to trust him. It was the expression of someone who had faced impossible odds before and won. Princess, do you remember what I told you about humans never surrendering when protecting innocent people? She nodded. This is one of those times. Ambassador Chen stepped forward. Ben, this is suicide. You cannot fight an entire raider force by yourself. I will not be by myself, he replied. I will have the most important advantage any warrior can have. Which is? I will be fighting for something that matters more than my own life. Dr. Williams was working frantically on her tablet. I am trying to contact our ship, but the raiders are jamming most communication frequencies. Ben turned back to the tactical display. We need to move quickly. Commander Vale, can you create a convincing explosion at the palace? Something that would make orbital observers think the building had been destroyed. Yes, we have emergency charges designed to bring down damaged sections safely. We could modify them to create a large explosion without actually harming the structure. Do it. Princess, I need you to record a message that makes it sound like you are trapped and dying. The raiders will intercept it, and they should believe they have accomplished their goal. Zara felt her fear returning, but it was different now. Instead of being afraid of Ben, she was afraid for him. The idea of this brave human facing an entire raider force alone was terrifying. Commander, she said quietly, there must be another way. Ben moved closer to her, and his expression became gentle again. Princess, do you remember when I told you that humans fight to protect those who cannot protect themselves? Yes. Your people have created something beautiful here. A civilization based on art and wisdom and compassion. The raiders want to destroy that and replace it with fear and slavery. I cannot allow that to happen. But if you are killed, what will that accomplish? If I can delay them long enough for the evacuation to be completed, then your people will survive. Your culture will continue. That is worth any price. Commander Vale had been listening to their conversation while coordinating the fake explosion. Commander Torres, the charges are ready. We can detonate them in 5 minutes. Princess, Ben said, I need that message from you. Make it sound desperate, like the palace is under direct attack. Zara moved to the communication station, her hands shaking as she prepared to record. This felt like she was somehow betraying the brave human who was willing to sacrifice himself for her people. I do not know what to say, she whispered. Ben stood beside her. Say what you would want your people to remember about you if this were really the end. She took a deep breath and activated the recording. My people, this is Princess Zara. The palace is under attack. The raiders have broken through our defenses. I want you to know that I am proud to have served as your princess. Remember what makes us who we are. Remember that peace is worth fighting for, and kindness is never weakness. Take care of each other. She ended the recording and looked up at Ben. Is that sufficient? Perfect, he said. Commander Vale, are you ready? Charges armed. Detonation in 60 seconds. Ben turned to Ambassador Chen and Dr. Williams. I need you two to go with the princess to the evacuation site. Make sure she gets to safety. Ben, Ambassador Chen said, I cannot let you do this alone. You are a diplomat, not a soldier, he replied firmly. Your job is to keep our alliance intact. Make sure the princess survives to rebuild her government. The countdown reached 10 seconds. Everyone in the command center braced themselves as Commander Vale called out the final numbers. When the explosion came, it shook the entire palace and sent a column of flame and smoke high into the sky. Through the tactical displays, they could see the raider ships adjusting their positions, moving closer to the planet as they prepared to send down landing forces. "It worked," Commander Vale said with amazement. "They are reducing their bombardment." Ben was already moving toward the door. "How long until the first raider shuttles land?" 15 minutes, maybe 20. "That gives me time to prepare." He turned back to Zara one final time. "Princess, promise me something. Anything. Promise me that you will rebuild. Promise me that you will not let fear change who your people are. The galaxy needs civilizations like yours." Zara felt tears forming in her eyes. "I promise." Ben nodded and headed for the door. Just before he left, he paused and looked back at her. "And Princess?" "Yes. Stop being afraid. You are stronger than you know."